Hi, and welcome to another photography tip session. I've been getting asked lately, how am I going to be photographing the upcoming eclipse that happens on August 21st, just over a week away? Well, today I'll tell you what I plan to be doing. Now, for taking pictures of the eclipse, you are going to be needing a few things, because you never ever want to point your camera directly at the sun. You will ruin your lens, you'll ruin the sensor, and you'll probably ruin your eyes as well. You can't look through your viewfinder directly at the sun. You're magnifying the sun's intense glare, and you can actually severely damage your eyes if you do that. So there's a few things that you're going to need. Now, the first thing you're going to need if you want a decent picture of the sun is at least a 300mm lens. I plan on using this lens. This is the Canon 100 to 400, 4.5 to 5.6 L Mark II lens, and chances are I'll be shooting it at 400mm. I might stick it on this camera here, which is an APS sensor camera, which will magnify this by 1.6 times. That will give me a 560mm lens. I'm not sure. I'm still considering whether to put this on the APS-C or use my 1DX Mark II full frame camera. But this is the lens that I'm going to be using. There are other zoom lenses on the market. For example, this one is the Canon 70-300 IS lens. Very good lens. Not quite as good as the L series, but that will give you your 300mm that you should be looking for at a minimum. And remember, 300 on a crop sensor camera will give you a 1.6, or if you're on Nikon, a 1.5 crop factor, so you'll get more than 300mm. The next thing that you're going to need is a filter for your lenses. Now, you do get dedicated solar filters for your lenses. These cost a fair bit of money, $100+. But in order to save your camera, you really do need a filter. You cannot shoot unfiltered to the sun. You will end up damaging your camera. Now, if you can't get a solar filter, you can use one of these. This is a neutral density filter. This isn't the one that I'll actually be using. This is only a 3x ND filter, which means it will stop light down 3 times. What you really need is an ND 100,000 filter, which filters light down by 16 stops of light. Every lens tells you what filter size it needs. For example, this one, if you can see that, 77mm lens, or 77mm filter. And all that means is the size of your filter is 77mm wide, or in diameter. Now, if you're like me and you've procrastinated, you will not. I've looked around. Adorama Pics, B&H Photo, Amazon, even eBay. I cannot find an ND 100,000 77mm filter. They're all sold out, all over the place. I cannot find a solar filter either for 77mm. So here's the second tip. You get one of these. This is a filter stepper. And basically what it does is it allows you to take one filter size, attach that to the front, and you've got a different filter size on the back, so that you can use this filter on a different sized lens. So that's what I've ended up doing. I cannot get a 77mm filter for my 1:400, but I could get an 82mm filter, which is fine because I can use that 82mm filter on my 24-70 lens. So with the aid of one of these, I can also use that 82mm filter on my 1:400. Now when doing this, always get a filter that is larger than the filter size of your lens. For example, I need a 77, I'm getting an 82, and then using one of these to step it down so I can attach it to my 77mm lens. Never get a smaller one. When you get a smaller one, the filter will actually interfere with your picture, and you're going to get basically a ring around the edge of your picture because it doesn't fit. Now when it comes to actually taking your pictures, put your camera in manual mode. Really what you want to do is get your filters, get all your equipment at least a couple of days ahead of time. Go outside and start experimenting. But really what you want is your camera lens set to not autofocus. You want it on manual focus, set it to infinity. You want your actual camera in manual mode and just start experimenting. You'll probably want a very low ISO setting, either ISO 50 or ISO 100, depending on what the lowest your camera does. With an ND filter on, an ND 100,000 filter, it's a 16 stop filter. You've got to take that into account, but also take it into account that the sun is so bright. You just need to go out and experiment. You might normally shoot at 1/500th or 1/1000th of a second. With a 16 stop filter on it, you're going to be looking at a couple of seconds. So something else that you want to do is put your camera in bulb mode. Now bulb mode is a mode in the camera where you press the shutter and the shutter will stay open as long as you've got the finger on the button. And you can keep it open for minutes at a time, however long you want. Most cameras top out about 30 seconds on speed priority mode. With bulb mode you can go way past that. And finally, the last piece of equipment that you aren't going to need is a very steady tripod to put your camera on. When shooting such long exposures, you cannot handhold your camera and get a steady shot. So you will need to put your camera on a steady tripod. Now one other thing that you're going to need to know is, whilst the moon is not in front of the sun on its way to a solar eclipse, that's when you will need your solar or your ND filter on your lens. When the moon's actually in front of the sun, when you've got the total solar eclipse, you need to take your ND filter off. There'll be such a drop in light that the ND filter or your solar filter will be blocking out way too much light. So you need to take it off again. Now when the moon moves away and you start getting the sun again, you need to put your filter back on. So something you might want to do ahead of time as well is just practice putting on and off your ND filter or your solar filter. Now depending on where you are in America photographing this, you will get about a 2-minute total solar eclipse. So in those 2 minutes, you need to take your filter off your lens. So there's your quick photography tip for this week on how to photograph the solar eclipse.